Okay, so is everybody ready to get started?
Well, I don't know what we're doing.
Oh,
So I don't know what we're getting started on.
okay.
Love that.
So basically, with AfroFinLab, we typically have a format of there is an expert and there is a referee. Today, Rick, you are the referee, and
Nope.
Sam-
I'm a
Rick
referee.
is the
Sorry,
expert.
Rick is the expert. Sorry, my bad. Sorry. Rick, you are the expert, and Sam is the referee. Now, the expert, of course, is the expert, and they're the expert in their respective fields, and in terms of, I guess, cryptocurrency, blockchain, Cardano knowledge. And the referee typically asks the quote-unquote dumb questions, because here at AfroFinLab, our goal is to help make this cryptocurrency nonsense make sense to the masses, especially Africans and Africans within the diaspora. So yeah, that's the run of the show. It's just going to be a casual conversation. It will go ahead for about 45 minutes, and then at the end we'll have like 15 minutes for questions and answers.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Okay, so
Is there already a list of questions?
the questions could be between us. We might have an audience that will come in and they may post some questions in. So
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
So basically, Rick, the season theme right now is practical use cases, for Africa and the diaspora. So yeah, so it's whatever Cardano is bringing in terms of blockchain and all the stuff that Charles has been talking about, and we know that you're a big champion of that.
Yeah.
I was telling them that just before, during the last vote in Fund 2, you were actually one of the few people that showed your support for WADA, for ABCD, for some of the African focused projects. So yeah, it's sort of a fireside chat. So we don't script it too much. We just ask you why you came into blockchain and all your thoughts, and then Samuel, who is the referee, will be interrupting you here and there, and
Okay.
the host as well, and myself and Sydney as we see fit.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Because what I did is I started typing up notes. Can I share my screen for a minute?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started typing stuff up because I didn't know so what I did is I watched the video that you sent me, Mercy, and I want to make sure I pronounce everybody's name correctly. Sydney, Mercy, Aziz, and Samuel.
Yeah.
Right.
Good. All right. Sorry, I just want to make sure I got your names right because people pronounce them differently. I work with a gentleman named Moises. He has a traditional name, Moises, and everyone calls him Moses. It kind of drives me nuts. I'm like, why do they call you Moses? Your name's Moises. He goes, yeah, I know. I'm used to it. So here's what I had. Here's some notes I took as an example. This isn't to bias the podcast. Let me see if I share that. And can you see that? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I watched the video that you sent, and it was really nice. And Virginia was on. I saw Virginia from XYZ was on the last time.
Yeah.
On that last episode, and so I just threw some notes in here just to make sure. So I know it. Aziz and Samuel. And are we live? Are we going to go live, or is this pre-recorded?
So
Recorded.
yeah, it's pre-recorded, but technically we're live right now, and we do have one guest one attendee,
Okay.
who's watching right now.
Okay, and I didn't know what the questions were, but these were the questions. So what I did is I watched, John O'Connor did an interview with Proof of Africa, and that one was really big. It got 9,000 views. There was over 9,000 views on that video. And as I watched it, these questions came to my mind. What would you like to see in an African nation build on Cardano first? What are your hopes and dreams for an African nation to achieve in the context of Cardano, for example? And then what do you think John O'Connor has up his sleeve? And I have this quote from, I literally typed this word for word, and this gave me goosebumps right here. I was like, oh my gosh. John O'Connor is freaking amazing. You guys got to get him on. Did you have him on yet? I don't think you had him on yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. We haven't been able to
Okay,
get a hold of him yet. So.
I'm going to nudge him in your direction. I've got his
Thank
email
you.
address.
Please and thank you.
And he needs to come on your program.
He does.
He'll blow it up. He'll blow it
Yeah.
up. All right. Sorry about that. I just want to let you know.
No,
that's
it's
good.
good. So are you going to that? Can you, I don't know how you can send it to each of us so that we sort of all have it, and then we can, maybe can we put it in the chat?
Panelist, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Where do you
you
want me to
can-
drop it? In the chat?
Yeah, drop it in the chat.
Just the
Panelist ones,
questions
not
that are in the
the,
chat.
yeah.
And I have that quote.
I think we can go ahead and get started. So, I mean, because it's fine that we have this casual conversation and we're doing what we're doing. But Aziz, you can go ahead and just kind of kick off the episode so we can,
Okay, so hello everybody. Welcome to the AfroFinLab, where we aim to make this crypto nonsense make sense. This is episode 23. We've been on a bit of a hiatus, I guess, for the past couple of weeks. Just, you know, life has gotten busy and we haven't been able to dedicate as much time as we'd like to the AfroFinLab. But we are here again and we are back. And today we have special guest Rick, who is a stake pool operator within the Cardano ecosystem. And we also have a referee today who is Samuel Awa, a good friend of mine. He works in renewable energy, and he's going to help, I guess, quote unquote, ask the dumb questions about cryptocurrency and blockchain technology that some people may be scared to ask when they hear people speaking about blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. So on that note, Sam, I want you to know that feel free to interject at any point if anything that we are speaking about doesn't make any sense. And yeah, let's get into it. So Rick, I heard that you're a stake pool operator in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. Would you like to maybe give our audience a bit of a background into how you got into blockchain technology? And yeah, let's take it from there.
Okay, Aziz, thank you for having me on. I very much appreciate being here, and thank you for that. And yeah, so how did I first get into cryptocurrency, and why did I first get into it? Was early on in Bitcoin, I didn't really understand what it was. Somewhere around 2015, and my sons were explaining it to me, telling me about it, and I thought it was kind of interesting. And at the time, it was bouncing around at like $250, and we were like, okay, what is this thing? What does it do? And we found it curious. And I was like, how do you not copy something that's on a computer? And how does that work, right? And so I was curious about the technology, and we got a little bit, we got a Bitcoin here and there, just little bits of it, and started playing around with it. And then number go up, right? And we're like, whoa, that's cool. You know what I mean? So number go up, and we were like, all right, well, let's play around with this some more. You got my attention.
Yeah.
Okay,
I like numbers going up.
Right, me too.
So, okay, number go up. It started off worth nothing. And then, we read the Bitcoin pizza story guy. We read that story. And we're like, wow, cool. And then we read some about Satoshi Nakamoto and some of the mystery and the intrigue behind that. And we just found it fascinating, along with number go up. So we had to get, what else are you going to do, right?
Okay. And Sam, yourself, how did you get into cryptocurrency? Because I know, like, recently, I believe you've gotten into the blockchain cryptocurrency space. So yeah, do you want to speak a little bit about your backstory into cryptocurrency?
I'm still a novice in this field, and you're one of the reasons why I got in, because you're the Cardano evangelist in our group chat, our friendship group. Aziz is always talking about all the reasons why we should pay attention to Cardano. So I did. And my other friend as well, Balaji, he's been kind of egging me on to try crypto for a while, but I was very apprehensive because of the security behind it. I wasn't too sure. I wasn't really comfortable engaging with cryptocurrencies until this year. So I started first, second week in January, and one of the main outlets where I was trying to learn was AfroFinLab. So I listened to the first episode. I think it was the NSARS one, episode 11 with Josh and a few others, and I was just really captivated by that story. So I started to do a bit more digging and doing some more research, and just seeing what the ethics and then the rollout of Cardano compared to other blockchains. I was just like, okay. And I'm a scientist by trade. So when I see other people approach things from a scientific perspective, I'm just like, okay, wow, that's really, really interesting. And so yeah, it just kind of went on from there. And I've just been more and more interested in how other blockchains work. And here I am, 3-4 weeks later, still involved. Number go up, so I'm still here. Even when the numbers go down, I'm still right now.
I have a question for you, Rick. So you got started with Bitcoin. So that was something that kind of brought you into the space. How did you find your way to Cardano, and do you kind of pay attention to other projects as well, or is it kind of primarily Cardano?
It was when I first started my YouTube channel, Digital Fortress. I started off. It was going to be general blockchain. I started off with like a ledger video and some things on some other cryptos. But how did I get into Cardano? So what happened was, one night in October 2017, an epic month for many people, my sons were talking about, we were looking at what are different cryptocurrencies, because Bitcoin is so expensive. It's not like we really want to buy more of this. And we heard of other ones. And one of my sons had seen Charles Hoskins' video and said, you got to watch this video. This one's science-based. So I watched the video, the one based on the sustainability, interoperability, and what was the third one? I can't remember, but there were three of them. Scalability. Thank you. And it was science-based. Then, so we looked and said, well, that's important, because we understand the importance, being a bunch of computer nerds. We're like, well, it's based on, they're doing research. We looked up some of the papers, we looked up the websites, and said, this is interesting. This is like, they look like they're doing it right. You know what I mean? I mean, they had more foundational data available than pretty much anybody else, or at least that we were aware of. And Ethereum was ramping up. So we jumped on it and learned more, acquired more, played around with it. And then over the next couple of months, it skyrocketed and we were like, whoa. This is crazy, right? We also know number go down. But because it was being built right from the first place, because there were research papers at the time, there was about 20 research papers, and there was only really the Ouroboros, Genesis, and a few other papers, Prouse, that were of significance at the time. But we were learning more about it, and now there's 93 research papers now, 93 from IOG. Not all of them are Cardano centric, but that's where the interoperability comes in, because as those research papers get read by other ecosystems and implemented, it'll bring back, it might be 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, but it'll eventually come full circle.
Rick, I want to stop you really quick, because you mentioned a couple of terms there that may have people scratching their head. So you mentioned Ouroboros and you mentioned Prouse. So maybe you can just give kind of a basic, the basics on like what those is and how they relate to Cardano or the protocol.
Yeah, well, really all I can do is touch on the basics. Genesis was the first implementation of it. I think that was the one with the federated nodes, and then.
And you're talking about the building of Cardano. So these are like stages in the building of Cardano.
Yes, and they can each be plugged in when needed. Some of them will run together, and some of them are run. It's kind of complicated, but what I suggest to the viewers is check out the IOG Research Library. That's the link. Go to iohk.io Research Library. Click on the papers, search Ouroboros. It'll pull up about 6 Ouroboros papers: Ouroboros, Prouse, Genesis, Kronos. Now Omega. They just came out with Ouroboros Omega. Oh my goodness, right? You know what I'm saying? And so Genesis was the first implementation, and there was Prouse, which is what we're on now. I think, gosh, I can't even remember. And what I do is I read the abstracts. So go to each of the papers at a minimum and read the abstract about what that implementation does. There's Ouroboros BFT, which was the Byzantine fault tolerant. It has to do with hard fork combinator, so that the fault tolerant and the Prouse can run at the same time, roughly. Don't quote me on that, but so that these different implementations of Ouroboros can be used, and that's also where the hard fork combinator kicks in. And then Ouroboros Kronos makes it time independent. That will probably be a couple years out. Right now, the blockchain is dependent on external clocks, and then Kronos will make it no longer dependent on the external clocks.
So what you're describing is kind of the process of. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Sam.
external clocks. Do you time independent? Do you mean make it autonomous?
Yeah, to where it does, right now it depends on pointing to a network time protocol clock, right? For the nodes to stay in sync, and the tolerance right now is like 50 milliseconds between block producers and relays, to talk. There's a certain tolerance, but then the block can occur across a range of seconds, right? So there's a lot of slot built in there to give the blocks time to move around, propagate around the Earth.
When you say the
Ouroboros
block,
Chronos will remove that requirement for a clock.
Rick, when you say the block, do you mean just like the addition of a new block? So like the time that a block is added to the blockchain, because obviously there's all these computers across the world working on verifying the transactions on the blockchain, but they're not all probably in sync. I didn't even think about that. So yeah, there has to be a bit of a lag time to ensure that, I guess, that block fits in.
They are amazingly tightly in sync. There is an app on Pool Tool for the reporting nodes. Right now, there's about 250 reporting nodes that are reporting the time that they're signing their block or the time they're retransmitting it. Then they the time they received it, and they report that into Pool Tool. And out of 250, the sync is on average about 99%. It's typically 100%. Wow. It's typically 100%. I'm like, wow, dude, that's good. That is good engineering. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, the synchronization is amazing. It really is.
I think one thing I'll add there is that for me, like with Cardano, I come from my parents are from Nigeria, and something that they've always pushed is, education is important. And I find a lot of Nigerians are probably very aware of education very much being important. And when I came across Cardano and it was like, this is peer reviewed, it's like, this is something I can go to my parents with and be like, look, mom, they study about it in like colleges and stuff like that. So I think that's a great aspect even about Cardano. Of course, one, to be able to speak to my parents and make them maybe feel more confident about it, but just in general, like if this is going to be a system that is used by people across the world, you would hope that the groundwork and the foundations that are laid for it are done, and they're done well. So
yeah. Aziz, my daughter told me the same thing. She's a scientist. She's a biochemist, and she's now working on her PhD. And when she was working on her master's, she also works in the industry. And when she was working on her master's, and her lab partners, they were talking about peer review. And she's not a Cardano professional, but she understands it. And she told her colleagues and said, yeah, this is a peer-reviewed science-based blockchain. And they immediately locked in on it. They couldn't care less about blockchain or cryptocurrencies. They weren't into that at all. But when they heard it was based on research and peer-reviewed, that got their attention. They're like, oh, science.
Yeah. That totally makes sense. And Sam, I didn't know that was your background. And it's interesting. I'm wondering if Cardano is drawing in a lot of, like the people that are in the ecosystem are a lot of kind of science-based kind of people. And that's what is kind of pulling them into the ecosystem. Like if you looked across the Cardano group, that at some level, these are people that are, that understand, kind of the scientific method and understand, what it means to have documents that are peer reviewed and before they kind of make it into the protocol.
I have a question actually.
Go ahead.
Rick, and I'm asking this because I know that you are somebody who is never afraid to speak your mind. So now I know why, one of the reasons that you came into Cardano. The reason for me that I came, it was just because, in addition to everything else, the main thing that really touched me is, I think it was a lecture that Charles gave, I think London School of Economics, and he talked about resource management in Africa and authentication and identity and stuff like that. And that really, really hooked me. It was like, whoa, it blew my mind. What I'm asking is, Rick, is this, this focus on Africa, is this something that you personally ascribe to? Do you think that it's a good idea, or is it something that it's like, okay, maybe we'll do it. I don't know if it's really useful. So yeah, give us a little bit of your thoughts on that.
Oh, well, with respect to that, I had no idea a couple of years ago, what the impact or the need or desires of blockchain in Africa was. Then I did an interview with John O'Connor, IOG's Director of Operations in Africa, Director of African Operations. He's based in Ethiopia, but he is working with all countries. And he told me once, whenever I asked him about it, and I said, are you primarily working with Ethiopia, Uganda, something to that effect? And he said, no. When he told Charles that he had already been in touch with 40 different countries in Africa, Charles said, well, what about the rest of them? There's over 50 countries. You need to get busy or something to that effect. It was so funny. But then he conveyed, that's when I first understood the importance was from talking with John O'Connor, that blockchain could provide a technology to Africa that would be very useful. And I had never thought of it until I heard from both John and Charles's descriptions that it would be more effective to deploy a blockchain-based financial system in Africa because the ground is ready for planting. There's not already a farm there. There's plenty of room to grow the blockchain, where in the United States and other countries, we already have this financial infrastructure, and it's hard to compete with that. So I never put that much thought into it. I didn't understand the problems and the difficulties that well. That's why they have researchers and they have people on the ground like John O'Connor to look at what's happening and what are the needs, what are the desires, what are the hopes and the dreams, and what do people need from blockchain, and can it solve the problems that they're trying to solve, right? I never looked at it in that context until I spoke with them. Everyone's a lifelong learner, and every day you learn something new, and I tell you what, I learned that and I stuck with it, and that just reinforced my beliefs that Cardano was doing the right thing. Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question. I kind of went off on that
was exactly what that perfectly answers the question. Josh, ABCD, he's based in Nigeria, and he was going to be here today, but unfortunately he got pulled away. He said something just to support what you're saying, that like in Africa, every sector is basically ripe for disruption. I remember there was a time that John, I think it was the December update, that he said that when it comes to blockchain adoption, we look at in Africa, and then we look at the Western world. In Africa, we talk about the marginal benefit, the incremental benefit. Where do we get the most back for our bank? So yeah, in that sense, it's absolutely right, in terms of what you're saying. My thing though is, as you're aware, WADA, West Africa Decentralized Alliance, which you voted for, very publicly, thank you, and ABCD as well, Infantu, that we didn't get funding, so now we are sort of waiting. So the question I want to ask you, Rick, and I'm also asking this because of the roadmap, you spearheaded a community roadmap, which is, a fantastic document. What I'm asking is that, I know that IOG is doing quite a bit. I know that the foundation has intentions, the Cardano Foundation, there's intentions. But sometimes I fear that throwing sort of the Cardano vision, intention on the community might be a bit of an issue in terms of will this ever get done? Because now ABCD and WADA is in Fund 3, and we're waiting, to get funded. Meanwhile, other chains, maybe like Binance and some of the other chains, are really trying to move very fast in Africa. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. And I don't know if I'm even monopolizing this conversation, but yeah, if you have any thoughts, just go for it.
Okay. So I think there is a limitation on the technology that's been deployed. Project Catalyst is alpha state. It is not beta. This is not beta software. It is not ready for public release. It is not ready for people to build careers on yet. But
sorry guys, I'm just going to intervene 1 second there. What is Project Catalyst, just for our audience, just in case they're wondering what Project Catalyst is?
Okay, Mercy, do you want to go for that one, or?
I'll go very quickly. So Project Catalyst is basically, so in the rollout of the Cardano protocol, right now we finished Shelley, which is to try and get the whole Cardano protocol completely decentralized. The next stage that right now we are working at is the Gorgon stage, which is basically to help to write smart contracts or to program the money. I don't know how to break that down a bit further. Sydney might be able to help us with that later on. And then, after this, we are going to the Voltaire stage. So the Voltaire stage is basically giving the power to any of us and all of us, who has a vested interest in Cardano, if you have ADA or, if you have any talents, whatever. It's just a democratic period in the protocol, that this is what we want the protocol to do, and this is what we don't want the protocol to do. This is what we want to fund, and this is what we don't want to fund. But before then, there is Project Catalyst. So that is sort of a pilot. So, and as Rick is saying, it's alpha, it's training wheels basically, and we are just trying to figure out, okay, can we do this properly before we go for Voltaire, full democracy, basically, yeah.
And there's a treasury in a sense, or there's the idea of a treasury that's associated with Cardano and really all blockchains, because if it's decentralized, that means that no one owns it. There's no central authority that will update that protocol to make sure that it's continuing to work the way that it should work. So with the Cardano protocol, as they were building out the protocol, they also included in this idea of how do we manage the protocol and how do we have resources to manage the protocol. So there's a treasury that's there that is, it's available for community members, people in general, who want to submit proposals that will improve
adoption.
Yeah, improve adoption, exactly. Improve the protocol itself, or ideas around, well, not the protocol itself, because that's going to be a core team of developers that's doing that, but just the idea of growing the protocol. So Catalyst is the voting mechanism that allows for that to happen. That at some point in the future will, in a sense, be rolled into a bigger change to the protocol as a whole, bringing in the ability to vote on all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Sam, I just want to confirm, is that making sense to you?
I've listened to so many episodes, so I had an idea of what Project Catalyst was. But yeah, that does give me a lot more clarity into the functions of Project Catalyst rather than just the definitions that I had already. So yeah, thank you very much, guys.
So Rick, as you were saying, so Project Catalyst is in alpha stage, you said. Do you want to continue from there? Sorry about that now.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And it'll also help with Sam bringing up the point. Our referee, Sam's our referee too, right? So right now, there are 3 different apps that you have to use, actually 4, in order to participate. And it's very important that people participate in Project Catalyst to get through the alpha stage. If you don't have participants, you can't get to beta, right? And then if you can't get to beta, you can't get to a publicly usable project, right? So right now you have to put on a mobile app on your phone in order to be able to vote. You have to download and install a Jormungandr-based version of Daedalus Catalyst, and then you have to have your... Yeah, and then you have to have your Daedalus mainnet. I'm sorry, what was the question?
I think Sam said what's Daedalus?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to have those 3 different apps just to cast your vote. That's very alpha. That is not even beta, not even close.
Yeah.
And in order to understand what you're voting on, you would have to go on to IdeaScale right, Mercy?
Right.
You would have to go on idea scale to read through the projects to have an understanding if you actually want to vote on something. Or you would have to watch the videos made by the participants in Project Catalyst. Now, let me try to get to the point here. Catalyst right now, the first Fund 2 was $250,000. I'm sorry. It was $2.5 million, $250,000 worth of ADA.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, that was also confusing, right? When is it going to be calculated and converted and blah, 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 blah. I think they should just go straight ADA. So $250,000 worth of ADA at some particular date. Then Fund 3 that we're on now will be $500,000 worth of ADA at some particular date. It could actually be less ADA by the time Fund 3 deploys. Fund 3 could be less ADA than Fund 2. It could be based off of the recent increase in the value of ADA, right? And so what I think should happen is stop tying it to the US dollar and tie it to the ADA. The protocol is generating 8 million ADA per epoch in the treasury, okay? And I estimate 80 to 90% of that ADA should be rolled in, but you can't do it in alpha or beta stage. You got to get through that first, right? Right now, there is 276 million ADA in the treasury. 276 million, okay? That's over $170 million. You could launch a Falcon Heavy rocket and a Falcon 9 rocket for $176 million. Elon Musk should be paying attention to Cardano right now. We're going for number one, bro. Number one.
Let's have one quick question in relation to...
They need to up the numbers.
Sorry, guys.
Those are rookie numbers.
Sam wants to intervene there with a question.
So I just have one quick question. Is my mic working well? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So epochs, are they just periods where blocks are minted and created and things like that, or what are they? Because it was mentioned there when he was...
Yeah, it was.
When Richard...
It's a 5-day period.
Mm-hmm.
It's how the blockchain keeps time. Okay?
Okay.
So every 5 days at 21:44:51 seconds UTC, the epoch comes to an end. The blockchain runs its calculations. It determines the ledger state, and then the protocol continues from there.
Okay.
An epoch is 5 days.
So are you saying that at the end of the epoch, so like, I guess on the blockchain, like the transactions that happen get verified and then it's like on to the next one kind of thing? Would I be right in saying that, or am I butchering it?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
It just says, okay, this is the ledger state at the end of this 5-day period. Burn it into time, burn it into history. Calculate everybody's stake, and then use that to determine block production at the beginning of the next epoch. So at the beginning of the next 5-day period following that one, block production for pools will continue based on the stake delegation, and rewards will be calculated 2 days after that point, 48 hours after that point in time. All nodes calculate the rewards, and the rewards are then generated inside the wallets and the block producers.
We should probably bring Rick back to break down the technical aspect of Cardano for us, in terms of epochs and stuff like that. Yeah.
I know.
I've been seeing it. I've been seeing it a lot. Sorry, Sydney, you were saying something there, because I have a Yoroi wallet and there's like an epoch timer that goes around. And I remember asking Aziz to help me explain, because I'm staking at the moment in Josh's pool, Proof of Africa. So I was just wondering how like epochs work, and Rick has explained it well. So,
and Yoroi explains it very well. Just the visual aid for a new user.
Yeah,
you can just look at Yoroi, and okay, I know what it says because it has the date and has the epoch, and all you gotta know is the epoch is a 5-day period, right? And that's it.
There he is.
Hey, there's Josh.
Yeah, Josh.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Yo.
Hey, Josh.
Hey
What's
guys,
up?
Josh.
hey, I'm good, Samuel. How you doing, Rick?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. What's up, everybody?
Everything's good here.
Good, yeah.
Doing good, yeah.
We are trying to get Rick's opinions on stuff. So Rick, you did say that at this point everything is really alpha, and I totally agree. Like as you said, so many apps that we need to pull in. A lot of the Cardano community, they do see the potential in Africa in terms of, like I am an ADA holder, right? And I want us to focus on where my ADA will have value the most, in spite of the fact, in addition to the fact that, I was born in Africa and I'm very Africa development focused. It's also about ADA appreciation. But I don't personally, I don't believe that a lot of people in the community realize that. And also, in addition to what you're saying, just using the Catalyst, the Project Catalyst process to try and find, sort of drive the adoption in Africa. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think that we should just be patient and work through the process, or I don't know, should we start the conversation as to whether we need to look at other options whilst we work through Project Catalyst, alpha, beta, and adoption,
The sooner the better. Get through the pain. You learn more from pain. Get through it. Just power through it. Just give it all you got. Guys like Josh, aren't you working on, you had a Project Catalyst, or weren't you working on development, a developer school? Training people?
Right. Yeah.
There you go. That's power through it. Just lean into it, embrace the suck, and just power through Project Catalyst. Philippe and I backed off TCE. We said, okay, this is a little too much for them, and it's not working out well for us. So let's kind of back off and let people get their stuff sorted. And we retired the podcast. And then, someday if I see an important need for Project Catalyst, I'll readdress it. But in the meantime, I'm monitoring, seeing how things are going. And Mercy, your project did not get selected. It did not win the vote process. But what I'm thinking will happen, kind of rolling back to the question you asked before, is if you keep pushing through, and it's easier said than done, because you're doing it, you're feeling the pain, and
Josh is feeling the pain as well,
Yeah, the number will go up. Yeah, Josh is feeling the pain. The number will go up. Like I said, 6 million ADA, about 7 to 8 million ADA per epoch is being generated. I believe, my own opinion, not financial advice, the community should vote to use about 80% of that ADA per epoch to be used for production now. Get it out there. Get that ADA in people's hands. Let them convert it, sell it, trade it, whatever you got to do, and develop. Just power through it. It was hard to do in Fund 1 or Fund 0. Fund 2 didn't have any money in the first one. Then the second one and third. And hopefully by Fund 4, they'll be able to put some big money on the table and get people funded and get it working. It's worth the risk. It's worth getting those people rewarded for the risk that they've taken and the effort they've put into it, and their willingness to be pioneers, and their willingness to get in early and push the envelope and push the limits. And you might get developers in Africa who pick up on a Project Catalyst proposal and really, get some traction so that they can create on their own. Like I was watching in your previous podcast, people want to create on their own. They want to be dependent on anybody else. They want to make it. They want to make it themselves. And the coolest thing about Cardano is the native assets. You don't have to have a country in Africa buy ADA to use ADA as their national currency. That's what I think John O'Connor, well, I don't know this. This is all speculation on my part. I think that's what IOG is getting at. They can deploy a native asset. They can call it whatever they want. They can call it Bob Coin or Joe Coin or whatever, Josh Coin, Mercy Coin. Okay, and deploy it on Cardano, and it behaves exactly like ADA. They can make their own currency, launch it on the same Cardano network that we have running on our pool nodes right now. Mm-hmm. And, you don't have to buy it at 63 cents, and you don't have to watch it crash to 5 cents or 3 cents, right? And you can, They can put some logic in there to make stable coins. And this is all coming in the next 2 months. You know, I've watched how slow Cardano was to develop, and I've got a pretty good idea at estimating how fast things are going. And I think they're actually going to pull it off. I think they're going to pull this one off. You know, I've had done assessments before on how long it takes to get things out in Cardano. And I know, okay, take whatever date they put out and add 3 months. I think they're actually going to hit February, March timeframe. And by April, you're going to see native assets deployed. You're going to see smart contracts deployed. Parts of Goguen are already deployed. They're already on the blockchain. They're already running. Metadata is already implemented, right?
I think Sam had a question there, guys, actually. Sam, did you have something to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
There's been a word that's come up a few times, and I have sort of an understanding of it, like nodes and how they function and work. Now, how do they differ from stake pools, or are they one and the same, nodes and stake pools?
Okay, so there's different kinds of nodes. Okay, you got pool nodes, which is stake pool operators use, and it's different software than Daedalus. Daedalus is also a full node. Okay, Yoroi is a light wallet. So there's Daedalus nodes. So there's 4 types right now. You got Daedalus nodes, your wallet. Okay, Yoroi is not a full node. You have the pool operator nodes right now, 1.25.1, that validate the blocks across the network. They sign the blocks based on the amount of stake assigned to that pool. You have the, well, I guess there's 3. So then you have the Shelley Genesis nodes that have basically ultimate authority on the network as long as D does not equal 0. You know, if the network is about to fall apart, if it goes into a crazy state, those nodes can take over and run the network, okay? So those are the 3 types of main nodes. You got the pool nodes and you got the Shelley Genesis nodes. Those are the 2 main nodes. Then you have the Daedalus wallets, which are also a node. They validate the entire blockchain.
And so Rick, basically the nodes as well are so all blockchains are basically ledgers. And so the nodes that you're talking about, each one of those nodes will have a full, in the ledger basically is all the transactions that happen across the blockchain. It just makes sure the blockchains on the network validate whether or not those transactions occurred. Those transactions go into the ledger, and those ledgers are held on these nodes. So is that kind of a general idea to kind of give, you know, folks who don't really understand the technical part of it, because this can be really technical, how, you know, kind of how the nodes work?
Yeah, I always like to draw diagrams. I feel like drawing a diagram right now. But yeah, so right now, the way the network works is you have basically a massive number. We got 1,600 stake pool nodes that have stake either delegated or pledged, right? All the ADA is on them. Then you have the Shelley Genesis nodes also, right? And the wallets, when you open Yoroi, Yoroi looks at a server and the server looks at the blockchain at the network and it gets the data from the network. If you open a Daedalus, the Daedalus connects to, Daedalus currently does not connect to the community pool nodes. In this current, right now, Daedalus only connects to the about 200 IOG nodes that provide connections to Daedalus to serve the blockchain, okay? So that Daedalus stores a copy of that ledger that Sydney just described, right? So Daedalus stores the entire ledger and it validates it and says, yep, this is good, right? And then, of course, the pool nodes also validate and they share the blocks. And when a pool signs a block, the other pools will look at the block that has the current ledger state or the current, you know, the last 20 seconds or so of transactions. And it says, yes, that node was allowed to sign that block. And if there was a block transmitted from a different node, then every node would also know that that node was not allowed to sign that block. But if 2 or more nodes transmitted a block at the same time, then every node in the all 1,600 of them will look at it and say, okay, which one of them has the lower VRF hash? They're going to get credit for the block, and the other one will be dropped. Okay? And that way, all of the nodes will all make the same decision at the same time, and they will all have the same ledger state all the time. Within about 20 seconds,
so that's
it will always be the same.
Okay, so that's the consensus that you're talking about. What's the VRF hash then? I don't have any idea what that is.
Oh man, that's a good one. That's kind of hard to answer. So the verifiable random function is what it means, and what it does is it allows you to make keys and stuff like that to sign the blocks with, that other nodes, when they see the block, they can verify and say, yes, that node was in fact allowed to sign the block at that time. And it provides very powerful security features to the network.
So can I intervene? Is that just kind of like a special code attached to an invoice just to be able to track, like, okay, this is the hash, the code that's attached to this invoice, and somebody signed it, and we can see that this is that invoice, that ledger, that block, whatever? I know I'm really trying to simplify it there, but would I be right in saying that, or correct me if I'm wrong?
Yeah, in general, it's kind of like, if I use my debit card and I put my debit card in, I got to enter a PIN to authenticate, and they said, yep, that's the right guy. But if someone else takes my debit card and they stick it in a machine and they enter the wrong PIN, they'll say, no, that's the wrong guy. That you're not supposed to have that money.
Okay.
Yeah, it provides security for the network.
That's a great analogy.
I have to say, Rick, your knowledge in this ecosystem is actually quite incredible. I'm learning so much right now. I have Euroya, but I never knew the difference kind of like between Daedalus and I hear nodes, and in my head it's like, okay, those are computers, but I didn't realize there's all these different kinds of nodes, and the stake pools are using different nodes. It just sounds like there's so much layer of verification that has to occur to keep this as a very secure blockchain. And now I guess I kind of feel even more confident being invested in Cardano the way that I am.
Cardano is equally as secure as Bitcoin, and I would almost ponder that it could be more secure. It's quite possibly, it is definitely at least as secure as Bitcoin, based on if you take the properties, not the actual thing. People think I'm crazy when I say that, but it's been mathematically proven to be as equally secure as Bitcoin. And in some cases, I would almost say it could be more secure. Maybe we'll know someday. We'll know someday.
Right.
And it's definitely a lot more expensive to attack than Bitcoin. It really is. There's an attack problem. People say, oh, well, 51% attack, blah, blah, blah. Right now, Cardano's worth, I don't know, what's the market cap? Like 20 billion. So you only got to buy 11 billion. It is going to cost way more than $11 billion to 51% attack Cardano. But you can attack Bitcoin with about 4 billion. I would say that Cardano is more secure. There's a problem I call half the distance to the goal problem. If you want 51% of the Cardano, by the time you got half the distance to the goal, you're going to at least double the price. So if someone were to do 51% attack on Cardano right now, and the Cardano market cap is 20 billion, by the time they acquired enough stake to get to 11 billion per se, right? They would have driven the price through the roof. And they could never get there. I've speculated, how do you even calculate this? I asked Umed Saidov, how would you even calculate that? And he said, I don't know. Really, Umed's genius when it comes to math and finance. And even he couldn't figure out, how would you calculate the cost of a 51% attack on Cardano?
Umed has been on our show before. I've had a very great conversation with him.
Yeah, he's great when it comes to finance and the systemic effects and all that kind of stuff.
So at the end of the day,
go ahead, Sidney. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so at the end of the day, what I'm hearing from everyone is Cardano is a really great protocol, and not for necessarily like a number go up, but just in general, it's rewriting the way that we engage financial instruments and the way that we engage with each other socially. So it's going to change how we do things in a sense just as much as and not just Cardano, of course, but blockchains in general, but just as much as like the internet changed things for us, from the time where there was no internet to now being able to do a lot more things that we weren't able to do without the internet.
I think the importance there as well is, as we're speaking about, I guess, the security of Bitcoin, the security of Cardano, even the security just in general of blockchain. It's like, if we are going to use these systems and we want, the masses, the whole world to use these systems, we need to ensure that these systems that we're using are secure. Because if we have a whole world population using the system and then one day it just crashes or breaks, that would be disastrous. So it's amazing to see like the results so far, even of Cardano taking this long and steady route to, I guess, get to a point that the security is this layered and this secure, and there's still a long way to go. It's just like, you have to lay down a good foundation if you're going to build a house, and it seems so far that Cardano is doing the work to ensure that they lay down that good foundation, even if it takes a while to get that house ready to go so that you can open the door and go to sleep at night. But yeah, that's the route they're taking, it seems.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to go, though, because last time I was listening to the show, DC made a great comment about Ethereum and how that was built up and how it was like a proof of concept kind of thing, like a sandbox. As soon as like you try and take a castle that you built on sand out of a sandbox, it falls apart, like kind of thing. And that's the issues with scalability for Ethereum. But it seems like Cardano's approach is, it's not about how fast, but how well something is done, and then we can go from there. So honestly, yeah, really interesting project. I'm excited to see how far it goes.
Yeah, you had, Rick. Sorry, do you want to say something, Mercy? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to quickly chip in that it's a beautiful piece of architecture, and it's going to go far. Like before the show went live, we're talking about some of the things that could possibly be coming out of Africa. And, like it's going to be mind blowing. It just goes back to what Aziz, you were saying, that if it's going to be large scale, like governments and even to the whole world, then it has to be built right. And for me, what is even more important is what Rick was saying, that, in terms of entrepreneurs, like myself and Josh, we put in our hearts out there. And I know that Aziz is also, doing his thing, and we're going to hear about it. So somewhere, you also have to start thinking, how can I also, create something and drive the adoption. At the end of the day, it's in our hands, right? Nobody is going to do it for us. We will have to do it. So we just have to stick in there and just get the ideas and just push it, push it in Africa and the rest of the diaspora.
Mercy, I think that's a
go ahead.
Mercy, I think that's a great point, because you're right. It's all in our hands. It's really, it doesn't matter if you build a better mousetrap or not. It's about how many people are using your better mousetrap, or how you market that mousetrap. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that's the thing that I think Cardano is going to do well with getting people, from other ecosystems, to come over to Cardano and start to build. And to that point, Rick, are you in, like, so I have a couple of questions for you. Number one, how do you see now that you're, stake pool operator, you really understand the tech a lot better than a lot of other people. Like, what does the world look like in, let's say 10 years? And right now you're, let's say 10, 15 years, and right now you're operating some stake pools. Do you have any plans to, build out any dApps or engage in the blockchain Cardano ecosystem in any other ways other than with stake pools?
All right. Yeah, so I'm really glad you asked that question, because I always look long term, and I plan long term. I always look out 2, 3, 5, 10 years. Okay, and a lot of times I get dragged into the what happened now or what happened yesterday. I'm like, doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter. It only matters where are we going and how are we going to get there. That's just my approach. So I'm not going to write any dApps. I'm not a software developer. I'm a systems engineer and an instructor by trade. That's why I talk too much. So I'm not the code writer. Maybe my other teammates may write some code. I've got a teammate who's a Python programmer, and he writes Ansible and all kinds of stuff. And he's really good with writing code. And he's the one who automates the node operations. And another one of my teammates is really good with precision, handcrafted, managing keys and making sure that we're doing everything exactly correct. But where do I see, 5 years from now? So 5 years from now, I see there could be, I estimate there's going to be at least 5,000 pool-based nodes, but there may be more. It depends on how many users. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we have 100 million users, and one relay can connect to about, it can serve maybe 1,000 dataless wallets, right? So there are some engineering barriers here, right? And if you're trying to run out of 100 million people, if 1 out of 100 are actually using dataless and the other 99 million or 99 people out of 100 are using Yoroi and using server-based wallets, you're still going to need 1 million connections to connect to the dataless wallets. Okay. So if, based on the ITN, one pool-based node could connect to approximately, it was at the latter half of the ITN, could it connect to approximately 400 dataless wallets. So let's say they optimize the code and one pool node can connect to 1,000 dataless wallets, for example. And you are trying to run 1 million dataless wallets or serve 1 million customers or serve 1 million, whatever's using the blockchain. So you would need at least 1,000 relay nodes in order to support, 100 or 1 million users running dataless at the same time. Okay. All right. And then you have to scale up from there. So the more users you have and the more people you have using dataless, the more servers that are supporting Yoroi, the more relays you will need in order to provide the connections, in order to provide the blockchain to all of those users. So if we're going to scale to 1 billion users, you're going to need 10,000 relays. Well, how many pools do you need to support the cost of 10,000 relays? Okay. Based off the current model, you would need at least 5,000 pools. So, as it scales up, you need more relays, which means you need more pools to earn rewards in order to support the relays, and so on and so on and so on, right? So it'll scale up. So my initial estimates were 5 years out, there's going to be about 5,000 pool nodes and probably 10,000 relays, but it's probably going to be higher because with the K equals 500, we have about 1,500 pool nodes and 3,000 relays. Right now, maybe 3,500 relays. There's about 1,600 pool nodes out there and about 3,600 relays. So you're looking at 5,000 nodes roughly total. Currently with K equals 500. So once K goes to 1,000, there could be 10,000 nodes. So you're looking at about 3,000 relays. There's 3,000 pool nodes and probably 7,000 relays. And then once peer discovery is not yet implemented. Right now, the network is hardwired. Okay. So there's a lack of decentralization there. But once peer discovery is implemented and K equals 1,000 is implemented, you're probably looking at more than 3,000 pool nodes and on upwards of 7,000 relay nodes globally across the world, roughly.
I just have one question. I think, Sydney, were you going to say something there?
Oh, no, go ahead, Sam.
Oh, okay. You mentioned the acronym ITN. What's an ITN?
That was the incentivized testnet. That's where the functionality of Cardano was tested using, instead of using Haskell, the developers used Rust, where you could develop much faster. There was more libraries available. They were given a lot more leeway to just kind of whip that code together. And people's mainnet funds were not at risk. So it gave people more room to take risk to get the code built out to prove it and test it. That's why I say Cardano was engineered correctly. It's like building a test jet. If you make a test airliner, let's say you make a test 737 or 777 airliner, you don't put passengers on it. You don't put passengers on the test, right? You make sure it works first. Then you put passengers on it. That's what the ITN was, right? So the ITN was whoever incentivized testnet. So people got rewards for operating on the incentivized testnet. And that's where the Cardano concept of functionality was tested up until, what was that? That ended in mid-June of 2020. The incentivized testnet ended, and IOG had enough data to prove out that the Haskell code base would work as designed. Then then the Shelley Shelley mainnet, Shelley testnet kicked off, right, and proved that the Shelley Haskell code was working correctly. And then on July 29th, 2020, the mainnet launched with Shelley and the community nodes, and there we go.
I just have
history.
On that note, I'm going to wrap it up here. I know Josh wants to answer your question. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and answer your question.
I want to ask a question because everybody sees Rick post this all the time on the community. Some people may not know why he says it. I just want to ask this for them. Rick, why are we going to number one?
Because you have to have a champion mentality to be a champion. We are not going for number two. Ethereum is number two, and Ethereum has issues. I'm not settling for number two. Ethereum has issues. You got $50 gas fees. You got people on Twitter saying, oh, that's misleading. No, it's not. If I'm an average user and I'm looking at my web browser and my web browser's telling me I have $50 gas fees, I don't care if I'm looking at MetaMask or whatever. I don't care. I got a web browser telling me I got to pay $50 to send $100. Nobody's going to do that. No one's going to believe you when you say, oh, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I literally read those conversations on Twitter. We are going for number one because Cardano technology is better than Ethereum technology. I said it 2 years ago, and I'll say it again. Eventually, Cardano will run Ethereum better than Ethereum runs Ethereum. Cardano, Josh, we're going for number one, bro. It's better technology. I got these arguments with people all the time. I'm like, they're saying, oh, Bitcoin will always be the blah, blah, blah. You hear that from guys like Adam Back and stuff like that. The Maxis and Tone Vase. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. And,
okay, guys,
you hear him say that.
Sorry, Rick. I'm gonna wrap it up here. Okay, guys.
Okay.
We went over.
I'm gonna go.
We can still continue to talk in the after show discussion.
Can I come back?
Of course you can come back, Rick. Of course. So, for everybody listening in, for wherever you are in the world, thank you very much for coming along to AfroFinLab, where we aim to help make this crypto nonsense make sense. I would like to take this moment to thank our referee, Samuel Awe, and our special guest, Rick. Thank you very much for having this conversation with us. It was very educational, and I just feel like I've learned so much more about a protocol, about a blockchain that I'm already quite invested in, but I feel even more secure about what I'm doing here, what I'm pushing forward. So thank you very much for being part of AfroFinLab. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at AfroFinLab. Thank you very much.